In the same week that the doctor told me I had cancer, I discovered that he, my companion of many years, was cheating on me. The diagnosis came on a rainy Wednesday. I remember the sound of the water hitting the office window while the doctor spoke words that seemed distant. Tumor, malignant, aggressive treatment. I looked at his hands, at the way he held the test results, as if my fate, my sentence, was not written there. I left the hospital as if walking in a dream. People passed by me. The traffic moved on. The city continued to function. How could the world keep turning when mine had just come to a halt? I called Marcos as soon as I got into the car. My voice was choked up, my hands trembling on the steering wheel. Love, I need you to come home now. The doctor, I can't, Marta. I'm in an important meeting. Won't it take long? Marcos, it's cancer. Silence on the other end. A silence that lasted only a few seconds but felt like an eternity. I'm coming. I got home and sat on the couch, still in my wet clothes from the rain, still with the crumpled diagnosis paper in my bag, waiting, thinking about how I would break the news to my mother, my sisters, thinking about what the treatment would be like, wondering if I would survive. Marcos arrived almost 2 hours later. Wet hair, wrinkled shirt, the smell of a woman's perfume that was not mine. Sorry for the delay. The traffic was terrible because of the rain. I looked at him, and at that moment, I knew. I can't explain how, but I knew. Maybe it was the way he avoided my eyes, or the way his hand hesitated before touching mine. Or maybe it was just that perfume, too sweet, too strong, a perfume I would never wear. I didn't say anything, not at that moment. I just let him hug me, let him say that everything would be all right, that we would be together in this battle. I listened to his promises like someone listening to a distant song whose lyrics they can't make out. That night, while he was sleeping, I took his cell phone. I had never done that before. I always believed that trust was the foundation of everything. But something inside me said I needed to know, that I couldn't fight cancer and doubt at the same time. The messages were there, dozens of them. For someone saved as work, new project. Messages of love, desire, plans for meetings. The last one had been sent that very afternoon, right after my call. I have to go. Marta is having health issues. I'll see you tomorrow. Her reply, I hope it's nothing serious. I miss you already. I looked at Marcos sleeping beside me. 12 years together. A life built. Plans for the future. And now, 2 betrayals at once. My body's, which had allowed cancer to settle in, and his, which had allowed someone else into our life. I didn't wake him up. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I went back to the living room and stared out the window until dawn, feeling an emptiness that seemed endless. The next morning, when he woke up, he found me in the same place. You didn't sleep. Are you feeling sick? Who is she, Marcos? He froze, his hand holding the coffee mug he had just picked up. What are you talking about? Please, no. Don't do this. Not now. His eyes filled with tears, genuine tears, perhaps for the first time in a long time. Marta, just tell me how long. He lowered his head. 8 months. 8 months. While I worked, while I took care of the house, while I planned our year-end vacation, while I worried about the small symptoms that I later discovered were the onset of cancer, he was with her. Are you leaving today? The question came out without me noticing. No emotion, just a practical doubt. What? No, of course not. Marta, I would never leave you, especially now. It was a mistake, a weakness. It means nothing. 8 months is not a mistake, Marcos. It's a choice, repeated, daily. Please, let's talk about this later. Now the important thing is you, your health. And so it was decided, not by me, but by the circumstances, by the cancer that now dictated the rules of my life. I didn't have the strength to fight, to make decisions, to start over alone. Not at that moment. Marcos stayed home. He continued saying that he loved me. He continued promising that he had ended things with her, that it had been a mistake, that it would never happen again. And I pretended to believe him because I needed someone by my side, because the fear of the illness was greater than the fear of the lie. The treatment started a week later. Chemotherapy. The word itself already carried a weight, a threat. I remember the first session, sitting in that cold armchair, with needles going into my body, powerful drugs running through my veins to kill the cancer cells, and inevitably killing some healthy cells too. Marcos was by my side, holding my hand, saying words of encouragement. He seemed sincere. He seemed genuinely concerned. But I could no longer look at him without wondering if he would rather be somewhere else, with someone else. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. My hair began to fall out, first a few strands on the pillow, then whole tufts in the shower, until one day I woke up and ran my hand over my head, and half of what was left came off with it. I cried that morning. I cried like I hadn't cried with the diagnosis, like I hadn't cried with the betrayal. I cried for my hair that had always been my pride, my crown. I cried for the woman I was, and who seemed to be disappearing in the mirror each day. Marcos found me in the bathroom, sitting on the floor, with strands of hair scattered around me. "Let's shave it," he said gently. "It will be less traumatic than watching it fall out little by little." I nodded in agreement. He took the clippers he used to cut his own hair, and carefully started running it over my head. The last strands fell, revealing a pale, vulnerable scalp. When he was done, I looked at myself in the mirror. A stranger stared back at me. A bald woman, with deep, dark circles under her eyes, skin yellowed by the medications, so thin that the bones in her face seemed ready to tear through the skin. "You're still beautiful," Marcos said, kissing my forehead, but his eyes told a different story, a story of pity, perhaps even of revulsion. And at that moment, something inside me definitively broke. Chemotherapy sessions were every 3 weeks. In the days following each session, I could barely get out of bed. Constant nausea, body aches, a fatigue that seemed to drain every drop of energy. Marcos took care of me, brought water, medicine, food that I rarely managed to eat. He took care of me gently, with dedication, as if he were paying a penance. It was during one of these sessions, the 5th or 6th, I don't remember exactly, that everything changed. Marcos had gone to get a coffee, and I was alone in the chair, watching the clear liquid enter my body. I felt so lonely, so abandoned, even with all the people around me, attentive nurses, competent doctors, even Marcos with his guilty care. I closed my eyes and, without realizing it, began to murmur a prayer. I was not a practicing religious person. I went to church on special occasions, celebrated Christmas and Easter more out of tradition than faith. But at that moment, the words came naturally. "Lord, I have no more strength. I don't know if I can continue." And then, something happened. It was not an audible voice, nor a mystical vision. It was more like a certainty that settled in my chest, a presence that filled the void I was feeling. "Then use mine." I opened my eyes, surprised by the clarity of those words in my mind. I looked around, but the room was empty, except for other patients in their armchairs, some sleeping, others distracted with books or cell phones. But the sensation remained, a feeling that I was not alone, that there was a greater force with me, sustaining me when my own strength failed. When Marcos returned, he noticed something different about me. "You seem better. Did something happen?" How to explain it? How to say that I had just experienced something I had never felt before? that I had spoken with God as one speaks with a close friend, that for the first time since the diagnosis, I didn't feel afraid. I'm just feeling less nauseous, I replied. But it was more than that, much more. In the following weeks, that presence became my constant companion. In the moments when the pain was unbearable, when my stomach was churning with violent nausea, when fatigue left me unable to do the simplest tasks, it was this presence that comforted me. That gave me strength to continue. I started reading the Bible. At first, just random passages. Then, with more purpose. I found comfort in the words of Psalms. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. The valley of the shadow of death, that was exactly where I was, walking through it day after day, session after session. But now, I was not walking alone, and it was during this same period that I started noticing changes in Marcos. He seemed more distant, more restless. The phone calls he would take in the hallway, out of my earshot, the sudden exits to solve problems at work, the way he constantly checked his phone, as if expecting something, or someone. I knew what was happening. I knew the other woman was still around. Perhaps she had never really left the picture, but strangely, it didn't hurt me as much as it used to. It was as if a part of me had already detached, had already accepted that this relationship, regardless of the outcome of my treatment, was doomed to end. One afternoon, while Marcos was at work, I received a call from an unknown number. I answered with a weak voice, still recovering from the last session. "Hello? Is this Marta?" It was a female voice, young, nervous. "Yes, it's me. My name is Carla. I think we need to talk." My heart raced. I knew who it was before she even had to say, "You're the woman with Marcos." It wasn't a question. It was a statement. Silence on the other end. Then, a sigh. "Yes, it's me. Look, I didn't know about you. About your illness, I mean. He told me you two were separated, that you were just living together for financial convenience. I only found out the truth a few weeks ago." I closed my eyes, feeling a wave of exhaustion that had nothing to do with the cancer. "And why are you calling me now?" "Because I can't continue living with this lie. Because you deserve to know the truth. He's with me almost every night. He says he's working late, but comes to my place, including when you're worse, after your treatment sessions." Each word was like a needle. Not because of the betrayal itself, that I already knew, had already accepted, but because of the magnitude of the lie, the cruelty of abandoning me in the moments I needed him the most. "Thank you for telling me," I replied, with a calmness that surprised me. But actually, I already knew. Maybe not all the details, but I knew. "You knew? And still stayed with him?" "I'm fighting cancer, Carla. I didn't have the strength to fight on two fronts at the same time, but that's going to change. Today." When I hung up, I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel jealousy. I just felt a clarity I hadn't experienced in a long time, a certainty about what needed to be done. That night, when Marcos got home, late, as had become usual, I was sitting in the living room with the lights on, a suitcase beside me. "What's happening?" he asked, looking at the suitcase. "It's over, Marcos. I want you to leave." He seemed genuinely surprised, as if, after so long lying, he had believed his own lie, as if he really thought I'd never make this decision. "What are you talking about? Leave? Now? In the middle of your treatment?" Carla called me today. Her name had the effect of a slap. He turned pale and mumbled something unintelligible. "Marta, I can explain." "There's nothing to explain. You stayed with her all this time. While I fought for my life, you were building a parallel life with someone else. While I suffered the effects of chemotherapy, you were in her bed. It was a mistake. I No, Marcos. A mistake is something you do once, maybe twice. What you did was a choice, repeated, conscious. And I'm also making a choice now. I want you to leave, tonight. And how are you going to manage? Who's going to take care of you? The question made me smile, not with joy, but with a sad irony. Do you really think you've been taking care of me? On the nights I needed you the most, you weren't here. On the days the pain was unbearable, you were with her. I've been managing on my own for a long time, Marcos. The difference is, now I won't pretend I'm not alone anymore. He tried to argue, tried to convince me that he was remorseful, that we could try again. But there was a new strength within me, an unshakable certainty. It wasn't hatred, nor resentment. It was simply the understanding that this cycle needed to end. If not for me, think about your career. What will people say if they find out you abandoned your wife with cancer? It was his last resort. The appeal to fear, to shame, to appearance. I don't care what they will say, Marcos. I care about the truth. And the truth is that our marriage ended long before the diagnosis. We just didn't have the courage to admit it. He left that same night. He took only a suitcase with the essentials, promising to come back for the rest. When the door closed behind him, I sat on the couch and let the tears come. They were not tears of sadness or despair. They were tears of relief, of liberation. The following weeks were difficult. I had to reorganize my life, ask friends and family for help to take me to chemotherapy sessions, to stay with me on the worst days. My mother temporarily moved in with me. My sisters took turns on weekends. But, strangely, I felt stronger without Marcos than with him. The presence I had discovered during that chemotherapy session, that silent voice telling me, use my strength, became increasingly real, more tangible. I started attending a church nearby, not one of those large, noisy churches full of miraculous promises, but a small, welcoming community where people truly cared about each other, where I didn't need to hide my bald head or fake a smile when the pain was too much. It was there that I met Donna Carmem, a woman over 70 years old who had also gone through cancer, who had also lost her hair, her energy, her appetite, who had also felt fear, despair, loneliness, but who had found, just as I was beginning to find, a strength that came from another place. Cancer taught me that I have no control over life, she once told me, holding my hands in hers. But it also taught me that I am not alone in the chaos, that there is a presence, a force, a love that sustains me when everything seems to fall apart. Her words echoed in me, confirming what I was already beginning to understand, that faith was not an escape from reality, a denial of suffering. It was, on the contrary, a way to face reality with courage, to find meaning even in suffering. The treatment continued. More chemotherapy sessions, more side effects, more days in bed, more sleepless nights. But now, each session was also an encounter with that presence that had revealed itself to me. Each moment of pain was also an opportunity for surrender, for trust. Lord, I have no more strength, then use mine. This silent dialogue became my daily prayer, my mantra, my anchor. 3 months after Marcos left, I received the results of the new tests. The tumor had significantly decreased. It had not completely disappeared. There was still a long way to go, but the response to the treatment was better than the doctors had expected. You are a fighter, Marta, Dr. Ricardo said with a gentle smile. Your body is responding well, and your mind also seems stronger. It's not just me fighting, doctor, I replied. I've had help. He nodded, understanding. As a doctor, he had often seen the power of faith in the healing process. Not a naive faith that denies science or rejects treatment, but a mature faith that complements, that strengthens, that gives meaning. I continued the treatment for another 6 months. They were months of ups and downs, of small victories and great challenges. My hair began to grow back, first as a fine fuzz, then thicker, but completely white, as if the cancer had accelerated time, stealing years of my life in months. Marcos tried to come back a few times, first with apologies, promises of change. Then when he realized I wouldn't give in, with veiled threats about the division of assets, about how I wouldn't survive financially without him. Finally, with an offer of reconciliation for the good of both. I refused all approaches, not out of pride or resentment, but because I knew, with a clarity that only the proximity of death can provide, that the relationship was over, that continuing would only prolong a lie, a farce that would serve neither of us. The divorce was finalized shortly before the end of my treatment. I sold the apartment we shared and bought a smaller, cozier place, more suitable for my new life, a place where I could start over. And then, finally, the day I had long awaited arrived. The day Dr. Ricardo, with a wide smile and sparkling eyes, said the words that seemed like a distant dream. "Marta, the tests show no more signs of the tumor. You are in remission. Remission. It's not the same as a cure. The cancer can come back, and I will need to undergo regular checkups for the rest of my life to live with this possibility, with this shadow." But at that moment, the words sounded like the sweetest of songs. I left the office and walked to a nearby park. I sat on a bench under the mild, late afternoon sun and let the tears flow freely. Tears of gratitude, of relief, of a joy so deep it almost hurt. "Thank you," I whispered, looking at the sky, "for staying with me when everyone else left, for giving me strength when mine ran out, for teaching me that starting over is possible, even when it seems impossible." Today, 2 years after that diagnosis, my life is completely different from what it was before. My hair has grown back, white as snow, and I decided to keep it that way. Each white strand is a battle won, an honorable scar. I went back to work, not in the same place, but on a project I always dreamed of. I teach art to hospitalized children. I bring color to the grayest places, smiles to the saddest faces. It's my way of giving back, of turning my experience into something that can help others. Marcos remarried, not with Carla. That relationship was also based on lies and did not withstand the light of truth, but with another woman he met later. I sincerely wish them well. I learned that holding a grudge is like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die. As for me, I don't know if I will get married again one day. I am open to the possibility, but it is not a pursuit. I learned to find fulfillment in my own company, in the company of friends and family who showed true love, and in the company of the one who never abandoned me, even in the darkest days. The surgery scar is still there, a thin whitish line that marks my body. Sometimes I run my fingers over it, not with shame or resentment, but with a strange gratitude. It was through that wound that I learned about fragility and strength, about abandonment and presence, about death and rebirth. I do not hide my story. I do not hide my faith. I do not hide the marks life has left on me. On the contrary, I offer them as testimony, a testimony that suffering does not have the last word, that it is possible to be broken and rebuilt, that it is possible to lose everything and still find something greater. Cancer took many things from me. My hair, temporarily, my health, for a period, my marriage which was already doomed, my innocence about the fragility of life, but it gave me others, a faith that is not based on empty promises, but on a real presence in the darkest moments, true friendships, forged in the fire of adversity, a renewed purpose, and the certainty that I am stronger than I ever imagined. I don't know what the future holds, if cancer will return one day, if I will find a new love, if I will live to see my gray hair fall out naturally in old age. But I know that no matter what happens, I will not be alone. Lord, I have no more strength. Then use mine. This remains my daily prayer, no longer born of despair, but of confidence, of the certainty that, even in the valley of the shadow of death, there is a light that never goes out, a presence that never leaves, a love that never fails, and that's enough for me. If you have ever been betrayed at a moment when you most needed support, share here. Your story can heal another woman. And remember, sometimes you need to lose to find something greater. You need to be broken to be rebuilt. You need to reach the end of your own strength to discover a strength that is not yours, but that is available to you. You have seen the pain. Now come see the healing. I'll meet you there.